Anyway, so I'd love to know firstly, a quick question. I mean, how many of you out there are in a job and, you might have been at a job for some time, you might be making some good money, but at some stage or whatever, that alarm has gone off in the morning, you've had the alarm going beep, 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 and you've slapped the snooze button maybe 5 or 6 times. And eventually you've managed to drag yourselves out of bed, drag yourselves into the office, and drag yourself looking at the computer, wondering what you're doing there. A lot of people have that, right? Put a yes in the box there, in the chat box, if you've ever felt like that at all. Yeah, Lawrence, definitely, he has. Obviously, I'm sure there's many. Nana as well. Look, they're all coming through now. Keith, everybody, Charlotte, we all get that, right? We have those days where we just can't get out of bed. The question is, how can we get it? Oh God, I mean, there's loads of people. Everybody's had that by the looks of things. We all get those days, right? And the idea of life is to get into the best version of yourself. It's to get into that sense of purpose, that sense of true, alignment with your true self, your best self, your higher self, in order to complete whatever true purpose and mission you have in life. And I'll ask you a second question. How many of you out there, you had your 8 hours sleep for go to work and you're still dragging yourself out of bed. And then this time round, you're going on holiday next day. You're packing till 3 o'clock in the morning. You've only had 3 hours sleep. And yet you spring out of bed, spring into a taxi, spring into the airplane, and spring into the pool on the other side with loads of energy. Who's had that? Give us a few yeses in the chat box if you had that. Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm going on holiday on Saturday, and I suspect exactly the same thing. I'll spring into the swimming pool at the end with loads of zest and energy in Tenerife, where I'm going this week. So we all have that, right? The question is, how can we align ourselves to be able to spring out of bed every day with vitality and zest for what we actually do in life? How many people here, I mean, I'd love you to just put in the box, if you think you're living your true purpose, if you have the true choice of what you do, is what you're doing now what you do? Is there anybody out there? Anybody say, if you love your job? I mean, sure, there's loads of people out there, right? Some people love their job, some people don't. Some people are aligned to what they're supposed to be doing, some people aren't. So how can we align ourselves into the best version of ourselves and doing our true purpose in life? And what I say to people, and this, I'll start here, is like, write down 5 things you love doing. Write down 5 things you're good at doing, and write down 5 things that you can add value to people in some way or form. Find a match in all of those 3, go out and live it. You'll never work a day, because you'll be doing something that you truly love every single day. And because you're adding value to people, energetically, you'll get money back for it as well. It's amazing. I had John Mattone was on my radio show, and John actually wrote a book 20 years ago, and the book was about sales and leadership. And he put the book out with the intention of making some sales, getting on stages and becoming famous. And he didn't sell a book. 10 years later, he read the book and he thought, actually, this book could add a bit of value to people. I'm going to put this book out again, but this time with the intention of purely adding value to people, purely helping that maybe that young guy or that young girl at the start of their career become a better leader or a better salesperson. And with that energetic intention, he became a New York Times bestseller. Steve Jobs read his book, made him his executive coach, and now he speaks all over the world. And I've spoken alongside him as well. So what it shows that if you have an energetic intention of finding what you truly love doing and then really trying to add value to people, you automatically become the best version of yourself. But how do we get into that? How do we make ourselves become that best version of ourselves? And on my radio show, which obviously Karen mentioned, I've got a radio show called Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories. I've had some amazing people on, including a few people who are actually here today. So I'm very grateful for you coming along. And what I often say is, how do we make whatever it is happen in life? And my MAKE acronym can be applied to anything, whether it's making the best version of yourself or making the best, in terms of a relationship. And that MAKE acronym starts with mindset and motivation, in terms of motivating yourself first to be the best version of yourself, and then motivating the people around you as well. And if you're in business, motivating your clients to buy, obviously, as well. A is for actions and activities. And in terms of actions and activities, you can be twofold. It can be 1 for your own self, or 2, it can be for the business. So if you start with business, let's face it, if a lot of people put a business plan together, and they put that business plan together and they put a target in place for the year. It gets put into the drawer, it gets taken out at bonus time, it gets looked at, and people go, you did this, you didn't do that, you did this, you get this bonus, and that's it. I mean, who's had that? Yeah, I know I have in my corporate world. Anybody else had that? You didn't look at your targets or not necessarily your targets, you didn't look at your business plan until the end of the year. It's a waste of time. You need to utilize it in a daily, weekly, monthly, and quarterly basis. So put targets in place for the quarter, for the month, for the week, and then put daily processes and procedures in place that lead you towards those targets. And then something I tell everybody to do, which is really powerful, is at the start of the day, once you know what you've got to do for that particular day, is to sit there and just close your eyes in a meditative state and visualize everything you've got to do. And then while visualizing everything you do, visualize it in the sense of celebration of you achieving what you're meant to achieve. And what you're doing there is in setting the energetic intention of actually achieving those in a state of celebration. It's really powerful. And I've had some billionaires in front of me tell me that that's exactly what they do. In fact, they say that's the only morning routine that they do, which I think is completely wrong. But anyway, so once you've done your first part of the actions in terms of business, which is putting your business plan in place, the next thing to do is to client map or client avatar. Work out who's the best client you can possibly be with, so you get the most amount of revenue coming into your business. And you can think about this. If you're just an entrepreneur or something like that, you might be going into town. So I might be going into Dublin here someday, and I might go in for a coffee. And I have a choice. I can take that choice and go to the local Starbucks or Costa Coffee. That's fine. Or I can think outside of the box and put myself maybe in a different position. So instead, I might go to the best hotel in town and go in there and buy a coffee there. Why? Because I'm potentially putting myself in the position where I'm with some pretty amazing people. And those amazing people could actually become a partner in business, a partner in life, or even a client in some way or form. So put yourself in the right place at the right time with the right people, and you get very different results. And on that, I've got a really fun story, which I often tell when I'm on stage. And the story goes like this. And you can utilize anywhere you want. But there was a young man, and he was walking along the coast of Galway, which is in Ireland, for those of you who don't know. And he's walking along, and he looked over the cliffside, and he saw these 3 gleaming, beautiful stones. And he clambered down to the edge, and he picked up these stones, and he brought them back up, and he went, wow, these stones are incredible. What will I do with them? So he went back to his father, and he said, Dad, look at these stones. They're amazing, aren't they? What will I do with them? And his dad says, I'll tell you what, son. Take the first one, go down to the local market, make a market stall look pretty, put a stone on there. And if that someone comes up and asks you how much the stone is, don't say anything. Just show them the peace sign with the 2 fingers. So he goes down to the local market stall. He puts the stone on the stall. He waits, and this beautiful lady comes up and goes, wow, what a beautiful stone. How much do you want for it? €2, she says. Wow, okay, yeah, I'll buy that. Thank you very much. And off she goes, happy as you like. And he goes back to his dad. He goes, Dad, oh, wow, I got €2 for that stone. What will I do with the next one? And he says, I'll tell you what, son, go down to the local diamond merchant. He buys precious stones. Go into him, show him the stone. If he wants to buy it, show him the peace sign, nothing else, and see what happens. He goes into the diamond merchant, he shows him the stone. The diamond merchant goes, wow, what a beautiful stone. How much do you want for it? €200. Deal, done. Thank you very much. He goes back to his dad, goes, Dad, wow, I actually got €200 for that stone. What will I do with the last one? His dad goes, I'll tell you what, son, go up to the National History Museum in Dublin, go into the precious stone department, find the professor, show him the stone. If he wants to buy it, show him the peace sign, just say nothing else. He goes up to the National History Museum, he goes into the precious stone department, he finds the professor, shows the professor the stone. The professor goes, wow, what a beautiful stone. How much do you want for it? €2,000. Deal, done. Thank you very much. And he goes back to his dad and goes, Dad, that's amazing. €2,000 for a stone I found on the beach. What does this mean? And his dad says, don't you know, son? If you value what you have to offer inside and hang around with the right people, you get very different results. And this happens all over in life. You can use exactly the same presentation or exactly the same story with different people and get very different results. And this worked with me, say, even in the investment world, where when I was selling the same product to financial advisors, I might get £1 million, to a stockbroker, £5 million, an asset manager, £10 million, institutional pension fund manager, one of them gave me 580 million in one go. And that just really shows you that if you hang around with the right people at the right time, you can get very different results. So value yourself and hanging around with those right people as well, because you know you are good enough. And in terms of yourself, I mean, that's all fine in terms of business, but in terms of yourself, how do we get into the best version of ourselves? Well, it all starts with you, let's face it, and it all starts in looking at you in a state of awareness. And let's face it, we are a product of our parents, our preachers, our teachers, and past relationships and experiences. And that means that we all come from different perspectives in life. And that means that you could see a color as yellow, I could see it as orange. It doesn't necessarily mean that either of us are right or either of us are wrong. It's just different perspectives of the same thing. And if we could all appreciate that, understand that, and respect that, the world would be such a different place. Because people wouldn't be seeking to push their own opinions on other people without understanding the other person's perspective first. Because let's face it, opinions are a bit like arseholes. We all have one. Doesn't necessarily mean that we want to hear it, right? My son and daughter, though, tend to show theirs a lot. Anyway, moving swiftly on. So what I was saying is, in terms of that, in terms of understanding, it's very important to try and understand, seek to understand by asking the right questions other people, but also seek to understand yourself. Because we all, as I said, we are a product of our parents. And let's face it, our parents generally, we tend to model, especially in the first 7 years of life. And because we model them, we pick up certain programs that don't serve us. And they could be stuff like lack of self-love, procrastination, not actively listening enough, not listening to the other person's perspective. You know them, right? You've all got them. I certainly have. I'm no hero, but I've got flaws. We all have those flaws. So what I say is, in a state of awareness, take a piece of paper and write down all those aware flaws that you know about yourself that are maybe holding you back, or that other people get annoyed about you for some reason. Anything, you know them, so write them down. Next, choose 5 people in your life that annoy you in some way or form, or have traits that don't serve them in some way or form. And make sure you choose a mum or a dad as well, because let's face it, as I said, they tend to model you as well. You tend to model them as well. So look at those 5 people and write down the traits that do not serve them. Also write down the traits that you don't like about them as well. And when you've written all those traits down of those 5 people, have a look at all those traits and see if there's a commonality even between 2 of them. And if there is, own it. Because the people who come into our lives mirror back the areas that we need to self-improve on ourselves. As much as we say we don't like it, but quite often, if you really seek to look really within, when someone is annoying you, quite often it's because it's in you as well. And actually, I do a lot of relationship coaching, both in business. I do a lot of board confrontational stuff, but also love relationship stuff. And the love relationship stuff is so funny. I have people who are divorced, separated, and everything like that, and they come up to me and they go, Doug, my ex, they were such a narcissist. And I said, how long were you with them? They said, about 10 years. I said, did you love them? Well, I did for 9 years, but then they became a narcissist in that last year. I'm like, okay, do you think in any way or form there could have been something that just arose within you, maybe at the back of the subconscious, or maybe at the back of the heart, that popped up, that might have been in them, that you're actually seeing as a reflection in you? So often I get the, maybe so. And do you know what? And I'm not saying this is in all cases, but the word narcissist is massively, massively overused. I'm sure a lot of you agreed with that. Let's face it, we sometimes use that word too often. I've heard it too much these days as well. And actually, I've got another acronym as well as my main acronym for narcissist. And that is neglected awareness, reflecting conditionings in suppressed self, instigating soul transition. And what I mean by that is the people who come into our lives, sometimes the hardest ones that really wind us up, are those ones that go right in there or right at the back of there to bring out some suppressed emotion, energy, emotion that you had at childhood that you need to get rid of in order not to get triggered anymore as well. So if you truly reflect and truly look inside you and ask yourself, is that in me as well? You might just find it popping up. I certainly have anyway. So we've now got a list of the self-aware flaws, the mirrored flaws. Next, something I learned in Kabbalah, it's an ego exercise, is find a friend, someone you really trust, or a coach that knows you quite well, and actually say to that person, I want you to tell me all the traits that you see in myself that you think don't serve me or you don't like about me, and be honest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my emotions out of it and look back in as the observer to seek to understand, to improve in terms of an ego exercise. And really do that. I did with my dad, actually, and my dad tends to be my biggest critic, so he told me to bring the biggest pad I could possibly find. And my God, did he lay into me. I was literally writing like this. Anyway, but you got to remember, when you do this exercise as well, some of the things that you will find will actually mirror back from them as well, because they'll see things in you that might be in them as well. So once you've got that list, you've got self-aware views, mirrored views, and phone a friend or third-party views. So you've got a good comprehensive list then to basically utilize in order to self-improve. Now, the next thing to do is to find a coach. And the reason why we find a coach is exactly like in Alcoholics Anonymous, why they make people stand up in front of the crowd and say, I'm an alcoholic and I accept that and I'm willing to change. Because what it does, one, it makes you accountable with the people that you're with, but 2, by voicing it out loud, you're triggering 3 parts of the brain, including the subconscious. And why we're doing that is 1, to create awareness, because if you're not aware, it's impossible to change. 2, to create acceptance that it's within you, because if you don't accept it's in you, you're certainly not going to change. And then once you've done that, then you can implement change. So I actually, in this very room on the couch over there, which you cannot see, I had a ex-pro American footballer. He was like 6'4", built like a brick shit as, handsome as you like. He looked like Clark Kent or Superman. And he was sitting there, real hard guy, real hardy, you know, kind of guy. And he was doing this exercise with me. And he read them out. He said, I lack self-love at times, but I accept that and I'm willing to change. I don't actively listen enough, but I accept that and I'm willing to change. And he went through the whole list and he had tears coming all the way down his cheeks because he was energetic, releasing a lot of the things through awareness and acceptance that were within him and he hadn't looked at before. It's a very powerful tool to do. Once you've done that with your coach, and the reason why, just before people are, why do I need a coach? Well, how many of you out there have played sport? Anybody? Anybody have played sport out there? Yeah. We all have. Put a tick in the box, a yes in the box if you played sport. We all have. How many of you out there had a coach? You probably all did, right? Isn't it amazing that all the top sports people in the world, every single one of them, even the best golfers in the world, have a coach? Why do they have a coach? Because the coach might be able to see something in you that maybe you don't, or will be able to mastermind you with you to bring you up to another level. It's amazing. I was talking about diversity and inclusion in Microsoft the other day, and I was talking about the importance of having a diverse environment so that you can mastermind from different angles, because people see things in different perspectives. So it can help you get up to that higher level in terms of that kind of thing. So what we do is we voice them out loud with the coach, out loud with the person. And then once you voice them out loud, rip that piece of paper up into shreds with absolute energetic intention that this is getting rid of those traits. Really rip it up with absolute vigor. And then once you've done that, take those pieces of paper, throw them onto a fire and see the energy dissipating away. And really do it with true meaning. And then once you've done that, rewrite the list on another piece of paper of I am positive opposites. So I am worthy of love. I am worthy of success. I am always actively listening with love. I am understanding the other person's perspective. Whatever it might be, you know them, write them down. And once you've done this, then every single day for a minimum of 21 days, preferably 60 days, either with the coach if possible, or if not, in front of the mirror, eye to eye, with your hand on your heart, and say to yourself, I am always listening with love. Whatever it is, say with real passion and meaning twice a day. If you do that, you'll implement a neuroplastic change within the subconscious. It's been proven time and time again. It's like going to the gym though. You have to do this every single day. You can't go and pump a bit of iron and do nothing for another week. You have to do it on a consistent basis. And with consistency and discipline, you can implement a neuroplastic change. And that's why it's so important. Sorry, someone just said, how long do I do this for? That's 21 days minimum, 60 days preferably. And it'll really help you. I promise you. I've done this time and time again with clients. And it really, really helps. So what we've done then is hopefully we've got rid of a lot of the crap, or we've made ourselves aware of it, and then we've accepted that's in it. So when next time we notice it, we can catch ourselves out and go, oh, I'm doing it again. I need to be aware of that. And through awareness after time, you can implement the change as well. So the other part of the exercise, once you've done this, is at the end of the day, is to have a look at the interactions that you have in life with other people, whether it be your husband, your wife, your boss, your colleagues, whatever, and just write down what were the thoughts that you had in interactions, what were the behaviors you had in those interactions, and what were the emotions, the energy, emotions, or feelings you had in those interactions as well. And write down what worked and what didn't work, and then write down what would have been best to think, what would have been best to behave like, and what would have been best to have felt in terms of elation, joy, and happiness, or whatever it might be in that form. So by doing that on a consistent basis, then hopefully through awareness, you can implement neuroplastic change as well and improve and just catch yourself out on a daily basis. And that's not just with other people. Remember, it's also with your own self, because these negative thoughts come into our heads at times saying, you're not good enough, you can't do that, you can't do this. Well, actually, you know what? Another thing you can do as well is if you get that negative thought, stop yourself in the tracks, as long as nobody's around, because it looks a bit weird if you do it with other people around, and say to yourself, really? Is that my truth? Really? And what you're doing is you're catching your subconscious out. It's a really powerful tool to do. And the last thing I'll give you as well in terms of negative thoughts, because let's face it, if we can get rid of the negative thoughts and get into the positive thoughts, it can really help you. And actually, McKinsey have done a 10-year study showing if you get into that positive state, the flow as they call it, employees are 500% more productive. And actually, there was also a Forbes magazine article which I saw that showed that happier staff are 20% more productive. Happier salespeople 37% more productive. And Fortune 100 magazine showed this, that the top 100 places to work for in terms of the happy factor, their stock market returns between 1997 and 2004 were 16%, whereas those outside of those, that top 100, was only 5%. So it shows how powerful it is to get into that positive state. And actually, being a stock market man, I actually looked into this. And we had Thanksgiving the week before last, or whatever it was. And if you look the day before Thanksgiving, the day before Easter, the day before Independence Day, and the day before, or the last 2 weeks of the kind of the year, there's the Santa rally when everybody's happy. Generally, the stock market goes up 85% of the time. Have a look at it. I'm telling you the truth. Have a look at it. It's amazing. So why is that? Well, it's because positive people produce positive results. So if you can get those negative thoughts out of your head and keep the positive ones in, then you can be in the best possible version of yourself. So how do we do that? And something I give to children in terms of my coaching, because I help children with trauma, I help children with going through suicide and many other things as well, and get rid of those negative thoughts. So how many people here, put a yes in here if you've seen Harry Potter. Have anyone seen Harry Potter? Put a yes in the box. You've seen Harry Potter? I'm a massive fan, I have to say. I've seen them all. I've read all the books. I've watched them all with my kids. I absolutely love them. Okay, loads of people have. Brilliant. Okay, so Harry Potter, in Harry Potter, even if you haven't seen Harry Potter, it doesn't matter. There's these ghosts called dementiors. And when these ghosts come up to you, they kind of drain you of all this energy and make you feel really weak. And that's what negative thoughts do, because what negative thoughts do is they're energy, emotion, and they actually drain you in terms of how you feel. Because if you get too many negative thoughts, I'm sure you've had that. Like someone who's had maybe a breakup in a marriage or a breakup in a relationship that you really cared for, you might find yourself for the first week or two, maybe even longer, in bed, really drained, really upset. And then suddenly you might get texts from that person saying, hi, how are you doing? And suddenly your energy perks up massively. So going back to the idea of how we turn negative thoughts into positive thoughts for children, imagine a dementia is coming up to you. So I phrase it like all negative thoughts are from outside of you, because when you came into this world, you're a being of light. For the first 5 years of your life, you didn't really think of anything negative. You were just positive, right? And the only time you probably thought negatively is when you shit your pants or you're hungry or something like that. And then you probably cried as a baby. But generally, you didn't have guilt, you didn't have envy, you didn't have jealousy because you were too young. But then the interactions with people outside of you cause negative thoughts, or certainly increase them anyway. So here's a little exercise, a bit of fun exercise you can utilize to get rid of negative thoughts. So when you get one of those negative thoughts, those dementias as such coming towards you, stop yourself in the tracks, or you can tell the children to stop themselves in the tracks and say, negative thought or dementia, I'm a being of light. You're obviously coming here to me because you want to go to the light. So in your mind's eye, now you send this dementia to the light, and tell the kid to do this. And they send to the light. And once that dementia in their mind's eye is in the light, you say, dementia, now that you're in the light, give me a positive thought. And what you're doing there is you're setting the intention for the child, or even your own self, to turn a negative thought into a positive thought. Because you're saying a negative thought into the light, gives a positive thought back, set that intention, wait, receive the positive thought, and then thank it and say, enjoy the light. So what you're doing there is you're giving a child, one, a way of turning negative thoughts into positive thoughts. And you can gamify it by telling them to count during the day and tell them how many negative thoughts, how many dementias do they send to the light. And that way you're making it fun as well. So you're taking negative thoughts, positive thoughts in a fun fashion. Something that I've made up myself, and it seems to work really, really well with those people that I've worked with. Might want to try it yourself. I have. It's good fun. Anyway, so that's so far we've gone through mindset in terms of the make acronym. We've gone through actions in terms of the make acronym. Next is knowledge or knowing in terms of the K. Now, knowledge in terms of a business, it's about know your client, know your product, know your industry, and match your client needs to your USPs. But in terms of knowing, it's a knowing state, getting into that knowing state, having knowing faith in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you. And that knowing state, if you think about it, if I was to ask Carmen, I don't want you to answer Carmen, but if I was to ask you, Carmen, what your name is, you're obviously going to say Carmen, right? So I would then ask you, do you think your name is Carmen? Do you believe your name is Carmen? Or do you just know your name is Carmen? You know it, right? So know what you want in life, regardless of the ups and downs, and know you're going to achieve it. And that's where it's really important to get into that state, because the biggest thing that stops people getting what they want in life and being the best version of themselves in their life is fear, which is false evidence appearing real. So why not just face everything and rise, as they say. So in terms of that knowing state, I've channeled this that it's a state of love, a state of kindness, a state of fun, a state of laughter, a state of creativity, a state of determination, a state of knowledge, and then also a state of command of oneself in terms of emotional intelligence, in terms of response rather than reaction. So if you can get into that knowing state, it can be very powerful. So that's K, M-A-K, and then E in terms of the MAKE acronym is energy. And energy is so important because let's face it, how many people here, here's a question for you. How many people here have walked into a room before and two people have just had an argument and you can feel the tension in the room and you feel like turning around and running straight back out? Anybody had that? Any yeses there? I'm sure there's probably a few. Anyway, but so there's a few yeses. Elizabeth says yes, and I'm sure there's many others as well. We all have felt that, right? Or loads of yeses coming through now. The other question is, how many of you had a really, really busy week in work? We are absolutely knackered, and you certainly don't feel like going to the end of the week, and yet your partner's arranged some dinner or something like that, and you turn up at and you make a pact with yourself, you're going to turn up and just leave at say 10 o'clock. Anyway, you arrive and there's a big event, the joy, the laughter, the happiness, the banter. Next minute you find yourself dancing your socks off at 2 a.m. and you feel fantastic the next day. What is that? Well, it's energy, of course, dissipating from one person to the next. If you optimize your energy, you can optimize your performance in life and in business as well. And energetics in terms of energy is so important. If you think about it, I am speaking now and the words are oscillating in a vibration out of my mouth into the computer, into the satellite, and into your devices, whatever they are. So there's an energetic vibration in everything you say, but actually there's an energetic vibration in everything you think as well. And if you think about it, if you go to somewhere like a funeral home or a cemetery or anything like that, quite often you can feel that eeriness in there. And that's because there's been negative talk or negative things coming out of people's minds. And actually, it's been proven. Actually, there's a guy called Dr. Emoto. If you don't know him, look him up. He's a Japanese professor. He's died now, but he was an amazing guy. And he did loads of experiments on water. And what he did is he took, say, a glass, and this isn't water, this is actually a vitamin drink, but he took a glass like this or a container like this, and he put on the outside love on one of them, gratitude on another, and hate on another. And then he gave the containers of water to 3 different sets of students within the university. And they went into 3 different rooms. And while they were in those rooms, they ended up, the first set would say, I love you, I love you. Love you to the water. The second, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful, I'm so grateful. And the third set, hate, hate, hate. He then took that water and he put it into a freezer and froze it for 3 days. He took it out of the freezer, looked at the molecules, and no joke, have a look at this online. Dr. Emoto, E-M-O-T-O. The water molecules of the love and the gratitude had this beautiful symmetry all around it. It looked amazing, pure symmetry. And if you think about it, the flow of energy within your body comes through, being able to flow nicely like this. And that's exactly what this symmetry is. Whereas the hate one was all over the place. So very important to make sure that you're hanging around with the right people who are saying the right things so that you have the best possible positive outcome for you and your body. Because your body is made up of something like 60 or 70% water, depending whether you're male or female. So very important to make sure you're hanging around the right people. Energy is also about body, mind, and soul. Body is all about nutrition, exercise, and proper rest. Nutrition-wise, let's face it, your cells are regenerating every single day. Your skin cells, you tend to hoover up at least once a week if you're a female, maybe males a bit longer. And then even your organ cells as well, they're regenerating every single time. So really important to make sure that you are being in the best possible state in terms of the food you're eating, in terms of organic food, in terms of reducing red meat, in my view, no sugar if possible, no gluten if possible, and no dairy. And the reason being is because they're more difficult to digest. And if you have to use energy to digest those things, it means that energy could have been used somewhere else instead. So very important in terms of that. Now, obviously, we've gone through the MAKE acronym in terms of mindset, actions, knowledge, and energy. But how do we get into that best possible mindset and energy state? I said earlier on, when we are beings of light, in my viewpoint, and we come down to this planet to gleam our light. And I have a GLEAM acronym as well, which I'll just finish off on. And GLEAM starts with G. And G is for gratitude and giving to others. Now, gratitude, we've all heard about this so often, the attitude of gratitude. It gets you into that positive state. But the question actually is, why is gratitude so important energetically? Well, if you think about it, right? Christmas is around the corner. If you give a child a present and the child isn't grateful, like they look at the present and, do you feel like giving that child anything else? Of course you don't, right? So why would the universe, God, Allah, your own subconscious, whatever you believe in, it doesn't really matter. What really would that make you feel worthy enough to receive anything else? No. So be really truly grateful for all you have now and all you've received in the past to open yourself up to receive more in the future as well. It's been proven time and time again. Actually, when I was going back 4 years ago, I mean, I've only been out of the corporate world for less than 4 years now. 4 years ago, I wrote down an affirmation that I am grateful that I'm on radio talking about my near-death experience. I had a near-death experience where I was encapsulating this amazing feeling of love, energy, and connection. Nothing like I've ever felt before. If you take your best orgasm times it about 100, that might be similar kind of feeling. Anyway, but when I was going back to writing my affirmation, I wrote down an affirmation firstly that I'm grateful I'm on radio so I could tell my near-death story. And within 1 month of using these I am grateful statements, I suddenly was on radio. Then after 7 radio shows, someone said to me, "You've got a voice for radio." So I changed my affirmation. I had 2 affirmations at the same time. One was I am grateful that I have my own radio show, but 2, also that I am grateful that I am an inspirational speaker speaking to millions of people around the world, touching their hearts so that they can align to their best self, their true self, in order to complete their true mission in life. And I'm grateful I'm being paid for it as well. So I had that in there. And I went, and then a month later, I got the CEO of Dublin City FM coming to me and says, "Right, I'd like to offer you a radio show. What would you like to call it?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I suppose I've been in the investment world for 21 years. I used to be head of sales and marketing, one of the biggest fund managers in the world. And now I'm doing mindfulness type stuff and, coaching. So maybe I could call it the Mindful Millionaire." And he looked at me as if to say, "I have to be a bit pretentious, Doug. Why don't you call it Inspirational People, Inspirational Stories?" And hey presto, I became an inspirational speaker, speaking to people all over the world, and got my radio show. So 2 I'm grateful statements for the price of 1. So that's why it's so important to be grateful for what you have and write down I am grateful statements for what you want as if you already have them as well. Giving to others also is one of the greatest gifts that you can give to yourself. And the greatest gift you can give to others is your presence. And that's why the word gift and present is the same. So if you can truly give your active listening and presence to somebody else, it's amazing the kind of relationship that you can create with other people, whether in business or in life. And relationships, a great friend of mine called Lee Tony-Ware, he came up with this amazing breakdown of relationships, as I'm stealing it from him, but I know he doesn't mind. So relationship, you can break it down into 3 different parts. So you've got the relay, which is communication in terms of speaking your word and actively listening. The shuns, which are the conditions in terms of expectations, needs, and values. And then the ship, which is like in the old days, a ship would go from port to port, so it has a direction. So you need, in terms of having the best possible relationship, to have good relay, good communication skills, to be able to understand the other person's expectations and conditions in terms of their needs and values, and then be aligned together on that ship of where you're looking to go with that relationship. And if you put all those together, you get a very good force. And that way, in terms of giving to others, in terms of active listening, is a very positive thing to do. Next in the GLEAM acronym is learning one new thing every day, but also learning from the hardships in life. Right? Let's face it, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't learned from all the experiences that I have to be able to share with other people. And I truly believe that we come down here, having had a near-death experience, I got glimpses that we come down again and again and again to learn, to grow, to evolve, to become better versions of ourselves. And those hardships in life are there to teach us to learn, to grow, to evolve. And then we can utilize those hardships that we've experienced to teach other people to go through those in the same fashion, or even in an easier fashion as well, in a more conscious way. And actually, I also believe, because I believe in reincarnation, if you are having a hard life, if you are going through a lot of crap, maybe pat yourself on the back. Because maybe you've played this game of life so often that it's like a PlayStation game where you're testing yourself in this lifetime to another level, to an ultimate level, to see through if you can go through all these different hardships to come out the other end as a better version of yourself and utilize that to help other people as well. And I truly believe that we are obliged as human beings to help raise the consciousness of other human beings by teaching them what we've learned to help them in some way or form. So learn something new every day. And also letting go. Letting go is so powerful because letting go, it serves you to get rid of those energies, emotions that don't serve you. So letting go of stuff like guilt, anxiety, anger, resentment, lack of forgiveness. Very, very powerful stuff. And one of the things, I'll give you a tool if everybody wants to do a quick forgiveness technique, which is very powerful, which I share most of the time when I'm on stage. What you do is you cup your hands in front of your heart like this. And in any situation, you need to forgive yourself first and the other person. Because let's face it, you were involved, regardless of what they did to you, that you were involved, you were there. So imagine yourself as a 6-inch tall figure, a 5-year-old child, because that's generally when our innocent state, in front of your heart. And then imagine yourself there and say to your younger self, your innocent self, I love you, I forgive you, and I let it go. And then put yourself into your heart with love. And then take the other person that you need to forgive, whoever it might be. It might be a mother or father, it doesn't matter. And then imagine with real meaning. You have to do it with real passion. So really, truly, when you come to them, say, I love you, I forgive you, and I let it go. And put them into your heart with love and visualize yourself and themselves in an embrace of love, like a hug, platonic hug. I did this actually with my ex-wife. And the next day she rang up and she said, look, we need to be friends for the kids and all that kind of stuff. It was that powerful, energetically wise, very, very powerful tool to do. So forgiveness and letting go is very important. E is for energy optimization, which we've talked about earlier on in terms of the Giddy acronym, but also emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is all about self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, compassion, social skills, and motivating yourself. We've talked a lot about those. And I truly believe that, in Ireland, for example, we learn Irish. I truly believe we'd be much better off teaching kids emotional intelligence and self-love rather than something like Irish. Because the best leaders in this world at the moment, and I was talking to Stanford Business School about this, are the ones who are the most emotionally intelligent. Because they can deal with the interactions of life to create win-win. And that's why working on your emotional intelligence on a daily basis is incredibly important in terms of awareness, in terms of control of those emotions, in terms of compassion and empathy, in terms of social skills, in terms of motivation of yourself to be the best version of yourself as well. So emotional intelligence should be something that we should be teaching. And also self-love. Self-love is, I think kids should be taught that. Because let's face it, hurt people quite often. So in that respect, if someone's coming from only a place of love, the only thing they can really truly give out is love as well. So that's something we really should be teaching all our children in the future. So Gleam, we're up to A. A is for affirmations, awareness, and also agreements. Affirmations, I talked about earlier on. Let's face it, you're the person who talks to yourself the most. Sometimes it's the most intelligent conversation you ever have. So you might as well make it positive. Let's face it, So say positive things to yourself every single day. I quite often get in the shower and have a cold shower. And I say my positive things because when you say your affirmations, when you've got a bit of emotion there, it creates more power and energy behind them, more energy and motion. And I can tell you something, when you're in the shower and it's blooming freezing, when you got completely on cold, that makes you say it with a lot of passion and emotion. Just remember one thing though, make sure you turn it back on onto hot afterwards. My girlfriend quite often walks in and screams after I leave it on cold when she first gets in the shower. So anyway, and then in terms of A as well, awareness, we were talking about the awareness earlier on. And then finally, agreements. And there's a great book called The 4 Agreements. And the 4 Agreements talks about 4 different things. One of them, which we're talking about today, which is be the best version of yourself. But also, it talks about not making assumptions. Ask questions to understand. A lot of the time, we make assumptions about other people without really seeking to understand their perspective. So it's really important to do that. And also, don't take things personally. Because let's face it, if it's a loved one, they tend to vent towards you because you're your nearest and dearest, or their nearest and dearest. So if they are venting to you, be honored because it means that they love you. And especially for us men, I have to say, quite often we try and fix things. Sometimes a lady just wants to be listened to. So instead of trying to fix something, men, let's just ask first, honey, would you like me to help or would you like me to just listen? And quite often you might just listen, my love, and then just listen. Really important. And one other tool, actually, I actually learned this. It was really good for in terms of marriage counseling in the old days. Marriage counseling, they tell you to sit down with your other half and go through all the different things that they might have pissed you off over the last week. And then they have a go as well. And you sweep it off the table and you go off and have a date. That's all right. But sometimes if there's a lot on the table, it can escalate to a bit of an argument. So a much better idea is to start off going up to them and say, honey, I thought you were amazing the way you did this week. I thought you were amazing the way you were at the children. I thought you were amazing you're doing so well in work. And I love you so much. And then fess up to all the areas that maybe you've let yourself down. So I might say, honey, I'm so sorry for leaving my underpants on the floor. I'm so sorry for leaving the toilet seat up. Or whatever it might be. Fess up to those areas that you know you've let yourself down. And that way, what you're doing, you're complimenting them on the things they've done well. You're fessing up to the areas that maybe you haven't done so well during the week. And that way, there probably isn't too much left on the table. And then you can talk about the other stuff as well. So it's just a more positive way to come to a more positive result. M, finally, in the GLEAM acronym, M is all about, firstly, meditation and then meaning. Now, meditation is talked about all the time, and I mentioned it earlier on. Why do we meditate? Well, one, we can connect with our inner self, our true self, our higher self, to come from a better perspective. But also, it's about being able to visualize while you meditate of what you want in life, and visualize perfect health. Visualize yourself being the best version of yourself. Whatever it might be, you can utilize visualization, a very powerful tool through your imagination to create that energetic intention of achieving what you want to achieve. It's incredible how visualizations that I put in place have come true after a short period of time. And also then finally, meditation is all about decreasing stress and increasing energy for life so you can get more done in less time with less stress. And finally, M in terms of the GLEAM acronym is for meaning. And in terms of meaning, I mean a sense of purpose, which I talked about at the start. A sense of love for what you do, a love for the people you work with or you live with, and a love for the clients you serve in terms of if it's a product or business. And when you have true love, you have another acronym, which I say is lots of vibrant energy. And if you optimize your energy, you're going to optimize your life. And I also say this, when you are 100 years of age and you're looking back at your life, you're not going to look back on how much wealth you made or how much money you made. You're going to look back at the legacy you left in terms of a legacy of love, a legacy of success, and a legacy of positivity on this planet. And that comes down to how many hearts you've touched. And that can come down to the simplest things as a kiss you gave, a hug you held, and a kind word that you passed on. And really, I truly believe that the meaning in life is to come down here and work on yourself in terms of self-love and emotional intelligence so that you increase your energy in order to increase the vibration of frequency and consciousness of every single person you meet and touch, and the ripple effect of that with the other people that they touch as well. Because let's face it, everything in life is energy. Thoughts are energy. Speech is energy. Thoughts lead to speech. Speech leads to actions. Actions leads to habits, and habits leads to destiny. So start with a positive thought, and you'll end with a positive destiny. And that's me done. And just before I finish up, and thank you so much, and I'm ready to ask questions, just very quickly, I have got an online course. It's at training.dougdgordon.com. I've shared it in the box already. If you go on there at the moment, for the first 10 people that sign up, I will give you a free consultation with those first 10 people that's worth $500. Get on there now and you can sign up for that course, which is a 4-hour course. It has an amazing meditation as well, which will help you in terms of manifestation. That meditation I did with Les Brown, who's a very famous guy, I'm sure a few of you know him, and a few other people who you'd know. And actually they felt this energy coming down in terms of positivity. And it's very good for manifestation aspirants as well, because you engage the energy and then manifest whatever you want as well. So as I said, the first 10 people that sign up, I'll just share the screen very quickly and then I'll be finished. Sorry to get this to come up. Okay, so you can see here, just in terms of putting, this isn't working for some reason. Why is that not working? Let me see if I can get this to work. Sorry, for some reason that wasn't working. Let me try that again. Okay, no, this isn't working. Okay, well anyway, maybe this will work. There we go. So as I said earlier on, just put the proof is in the pudding of everything I've said to you. As you can see, I was in the national newspapers there as one of the big city hitters, and then me leaving because of my near-death experience. And then as you can see, I've done quite a few events over the last few years where, and actually if I just go back one slide, a couple of slides to this one, you can see this is at Optica Coach, the biggest software support company in the world. For the optical lens industry, best conference ever, investing in people. My online course is a version of what I did for them. It was a 4-hour thing. And as you can see, I've got loads of LinkedIn recommendations. Please look on LinkedIn and you'll be able to see those. And if you want any more information, just contact me either on LinkedIn or on email. And as I said, if I get to the end, sorry, where is it is https / training.dougdgordon.com. And as I said, the first 10 people who sign up to that course, I will give you a free consultation worth $500. And if you want to see, what the results have been produced like, go onto my LinkedIn and have a look at the 54 different LinkedIn recommendations, which include me working and coaching with the likes of Stuart Lancaster, who is the ex-England rugby coach, who's now Leinster coach, and many, many other people, global gurus around the world. So that's an offer I don't normally give out, but because Carmen's a friend, I said I'd give that out as a special deal for you guys. But I'm only giving it for the first 10 people, so you better get in there quickly, otherwise it'll be gone. In fact, I've already seen, I can see 3 people have already signed up, so you better get going if you want that. Right, I am done. I'm going to stop this share, and then I'm ready for questions.